Religions and practices celebrating the fall and spooky season are as diverse as the people who celebrate them. Even within the realm of occult and the witchcraft community, there are so many differences around what we do and how we do it, even our beliefs around that. Steph from the Witch Wednesday podcast, who's absolutely amazing, joined me in a fantastic discussion of what she does and how she does it and some of her philosophy around that. I also share a lot of my thoughts and what I do around this season. I hope this sheds light on the value of hearing from different perspectives, but also, as we discover in this video, some surprising similarities between us. I think it'll be a great source of inspiration. Welcome to all of our viewers and listeners today. I'm really excited to talk about one of my favorite times of the year, which is fall. And this is a little bit different than I normally have it. We'll be doing more of a conversation style, all about our different practices and how we welcome in that beautiful fall energy. So welcome. If you go ahead and introduce yourself and explain a little bit about your background and your practice.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you. And this is one of my favorite times of year, so it's absolutely perfect. But my name is Steph. I am the host over at the Witch Wednesdays podcast. And my background is sort of more secular witchcraft. That's what I like to do. I do not follow any sort of particular religion. I never do ceremonial magic. So it's very low key, everyday, just kind of spells and rituals, which absolutely incorporate and fall into all of those this time of year.
I think that's so awesome. And the reason I'm super excited to talk to you is oftentimes when I walk into a magical space, and for people who are just seeing this for the first time, my name is Lynn. I'm a ceremonial magician and a practicing occultist. My version of ceremonial magic is Thelema. And so you can call me a Thelemite if you want. But anyway, when I walk into magical spaces, people are like, oh, you practice the Wheel of the Year. And I think it's important to recognize that the Wheel of the Year is a Wicca Gerald Gardner specific thing. In ceremonial magic and Thelema, people are, of course, free to practice whatever they want. People are often surprised when I say, yes, there are Jewish Thelemites. Yes, there are Catholic Thelemites. And yes, of course, there's Thelemites who also practice Wicca. And I am not someone who practices Wicca. And I dabble in witchcraft a little bit, but my path is primarily ceremonial magic. So I think that's just something to keep in mind. And one of the reasons I'm super excited for this conversation is the variation and the beautiful diversity of practices and things you can do for this time of the year, other than just defaulting to the Wheel of the Year. So for you, Steph, how do you kick off the season for you?
The season for me kicks off on August 1st. Okay.
Yes.
I am a winter girl through and through. And so I love fall as well. And then spring and summer are just like not my time of year. So like by August 1st, I'm like, okay, I'm done with this summer, like summer energy. I'm ready for fall. And also my entire house is decorated for very secular Halloween. From top to bottom. You could like see I'm sitting here for a reason, because I have like a giant Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, I love that. That's so
animatronic
fun.
sitting right there. And I was like, that's going to scare everybody who's watching. So I'll sit right here. But we have so much Halloween stuff that I have to start decorating on August 1st or it will never get done. So I start inside and I just top to bottom of our house, just fall decor, Halloween decor. So that it kicked off my season for 2 months now. At this point, I have been in like fall mode, and now we're getting finally into October, and everybody's like joining me. I'm like, yes,
yay, awesome, yeah. I started for me. The beginning was really the fall equinox. That's when I, did a lot of my ritual, my practice. So what's traditionally done for ceremonial magicians on the equinoxes is we draw oracles. And for the Golden Dawn tradition, they would actually choose their passwords that they would use for those months on the equinoxes. I'm not in a Golden Dawn group at the moment. So I don't choose a password, but what I do is I draw these oracles just to kind of think about the magical current or maybe where the direction things are headed. And my partner and I, we chose a bunch of different oracles. It was super fun. And then this year I actually did a little spell slash ritual. Um, and I think it's interesting. Every time I dabble in witchcraft, and I feel very uncomfortable because from the background of ceremonial magic, I'm used to a certain structure and a certain rigidity. And I'm like, we're not doing a banishing. Where's the banishing? And so I had to do a banishing. I did a lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram before I did my spell work, but I did do the spell work and it was really beautiful. And so yeah, it sort of started then. And in terms of like decoration, there were offerings on two of my altars in the home that were fall themed, fall adjacent, and sort of a few decorations started to come out around there. But I really started decorating the first of the month. So October 1st, the yard is begun to be decorated in the house. And I just think it's so beautiful and so fun.
I do love October 1st for that reason as well. I could like start moving stuff outside without all of my neighbors thinking I'm insane. There's like a lot
Yeah, yeah.
like
I
how
think
crazy I
about
want my
that.
neighbors to know that I am.
Yeah, for sure. I think about that a lot. I try to be mindful of my neighbors, including if I'm like practicing outdoors or something. I don't want to disturb anyone,
Right.
disturb and confuse.
Yes, absolutely. Although I do have a besom out front year round. I always get a new one at this time of year. They have the cinnamon brooms at Home Depot right now, and I love them. They smell so good. But I always get a new one as soon as they come out. And then I do a ritual to retire the old one and bring in the new one. And that is home protection. And I keep it propped up on our front porch outside, bristles up year round. So this is my time to like refresh that protection.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Yeah, I got a tiny cinnamon broom last year. And when I retired that one, I actually put it in my land spirits altar, which is outside. So that's one altar I do keep outside for the land spirits. And it's a really you would have to know what you're looking at to realize it was an altar. Um but yeah, that's neat. That's neat. So in terms of your practices, what for this month of October, do you have any time set aside? Do you do group work? What does that look like for you?
No, I do everything sort of solitary, and that's kind of how
Mhm.
I enjoy it. I just prefer making my own rules. I mean, you talked about, the structure, and I like a little bit of structure, but I like that
Mhm.
I make it myself and like minimal. Everything I do is sort of like minimal. So I don't usually practice with other people just because I don't want to like go by anyone else's rules and
Mhm.
things. But when it comes to like more of a party atmosphere, I do have a couple of friends that are witches, and usually I'll have a Halloween party and they will come over
Oh,
early. And we have a fire tabletop like fire pit in the backyard, and it really is just like the quintessential witches around a fire pit,
oh, I
like
love that.
drinking and playing pagan music, and that's fun. And then like, my other guests will come. We're like, okay, let's like tone down the witchcraft and like we'll get into like the party inside. But it's nice to have those couple of hours on like a Saturday afternoon to just enjoy a bonfire and with other witches and that like kind of understand the season.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. Yeah, I love bonfires. We have a fireplace and I love lighting that. That was one thing I did do on the equinox. I was like, okay, it's slightly cold enough. It's becoming cold enough to light a fire, so I did that. But yeah, I hope I have an excuse to light a bonfire. I have a friend gathering later this month that hopefully we can get that going. Yeah, in terms of my practice, so I don't celebrate Samhain. Again, people are like, oh no, well, I don't do the wheel of the year. Um, but I do have friends who do, a lot of pagan witch friends, magical adjacent friends who recognize and do that. So I sometimes sneak my way into a Samhain gathering or something like that. But for the most part, um, it's the equinoxes for me are the big one, and it's sort of business as usual most of the month. I'm really excited about the secular celebration of Halloween and that part with trick-or-treaters and costumes. Um, I plan to do that and sort of celebrate with the neighborhood kids. That should be really fun. But in general, for me, we have I'm in a magical fraternity known as the OTO, or Ordo Templi Orientis, and we have, I think, a mass on the schedule. So we do a Gnostic mass, and I sadly can't go because it conflicts with some of my other work I'm doing, which I'm really heavy into Enochian at the moment. So that's sort of what I'm doing. But yeah, let's not talk about Enochian. For people wondering, like, what is that? Enochian is the system of angels developed by John Dee. But it's ceremonial magic. But yeah, anyways, Halloween, fall. Do you have any favorite like foods for
All
this
of
time?
this is my favorite time for foods, of course, but I love anything pumpkin this time of year, except in my coffee. It's like the one thing that I can't get behind, pumpkin spice coffee. I don't know why. I can't take sugar in my coffee. I don't like it, but like everything else pumpkin, there are so many great like pagan traditions that we use for Halloween that people like have
Oh,
no
that's so
idea that
fun.
they, came from pagan customs, like carving pumpkins and like the pumpkin seeds and all of that like came from these great pagan traditions. And I love to do that. And I just love like hands-on. So like picking the pumpkin, carving it myself, scooping out the insides and like doing all of that, roasting the pumpkin seeds. It's like my preferred method of kitchen magic from like start to finish, and just like really having it like my hands on and like in the food that I'm eating just really helps me feel connected to the season. And I'm in Chicago, so we do have all 4 seasons here. And we do have pumpkin farms. They are like, I mean, really outside of the city to get to one, but they do grow here. So I like to sort of recognize those agricultural seasonal aspects and pick up that food and bring that in and just do that from start to finish. That helps me sort of stay mindful and stay in the moment, because like I do love Halloween, but I get to this time of year and I'm already like looking towards the end and to 2024 and like planning next things. And I'm like, I got to stop doing that. I got to just enjoy the moment. And I think by incorporating those seasonal foods and staying in the kitchen and understanding like what's going on in nature right now helps me sort of be more mindful and stay here in the moment.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that so much. Especially getting hands-on and having those extra sensory interactions is a really beautiful way to not only connect with, like you said, the environment, nature, where our food comes from, but also inject that extra mindfulness into what you're doing. I love that so much. One of the practices I do is saying will before I eat my main meal of the day, which for me, I have two main meals of the day. And basically, that's not a people can always compare it to saying grace, which I know it looks like that from the outside, but really what I'm doing is I'm recognizing why I'm eating. I'm eating to nourish my body and to be here and to be present. So it's just a little way. Saying will also connects me to the current energies of the Aeon and the 93 current and all of that. But mainly it's a ritual for mindfulness, and I do believe that food can be a great vehicle for that as well. And um one thing I was thinking about as you were talking about that as well is how we're so disconnected from where our food comes from and
Oh, yeah.
from the land and from nature. And oftentimes you ask people, oh, where did that come from? Oh, it came from the grocery store. But before it came to the grocery store, someone had to prepare that food or pick it or gather it and grow it. And yeah, having the opportunity to return to a site to pick food, I think is so cool. And I definitely encourage all of these viewers and listeners, if you have the opportunity to go apple picking or to pick a pumpkin, um, it's just such a cool experience, and I hope I get the opportunity to do it again this year, is to pick my own pumpkin.
Yeah, it's really so much fun and like venturing out there. And I live like in the city limits of Chicago, so that is like a treat for me to go out there, because I mean we have nature, of course, there are trees and things, but it's just not the same as driving like an hour outside of town and then this whole world opens up. It's very easy when you live in a city to feel disconnected from nature like that and not really connected with the seasons other than like knowing what month it is. So getting further out into nature and actually seeing leaves change and seeing what kind of produce is out there, like actually growing in your area, is so much fun to me.
Yeah, it's super fun to me too. I love that. And I think that's something everyone can sort of attempt to incorporate into day, whether it's mindful eating, mindful preparation of food, and it's just sort of a part of being human. But also, if you're a magical person, that's even better.
Yes. So, I mean, it is like you just go to the grocery store and you kind of pick up and you can have your favorites all year round, but that might not be like seasonal for you. Um, so I prefer to pick up, the seasonal stuff because it's also what's on sale at the grocery store because it had like less, travel and hands on it and things involved. So it ends up being the items that are on sale or what's in season. So that's good in our current economy.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, this just sort of came to mind in terms of encouraging people to go outdoors and experience more of nature, which I think is just healthy in general. They keep making these studies that like, oh, if you spend X amount of time in nature, like your health risks are reduced, which I believe. But aside from those benefits, what are some tips you would recommend, or I don't know, ideas to incorporate more of nature or just more of like fall season and the time of fall into your this month? Like what are some ways people could do that, you think, other than what we just mentioned?
Well, I do love going outside. We're close enough to a little park, so that's nice. I always bring oats and graham crackers because I love feeding wildlife. That's like my
Oh
favorite thing
yeah.
to do. And this is the season where you can really like go out and notice like how much more active like the squirrels and birds are because they're stockpiling for winter. So to like just understand that and be there in the moment. And I practice animism, so I like everything has a spirit is essentially what that comes down to, and that it's not just humans having a soul but also animals and trees, and just getting out there into nature and like giving back and feeding them and like as offerings in general just to the universe, like helping take care of the animals is something that's like super important to me. And it's just great to spend some time, leave the phone at home. I
Yes.
struggle with that too, or at least like leave it in my purse. Like don't check it. Don't feel the need to like take pictures of every animal I'm feeding or something. And just like, again, another mindfulness practice of like be there in the moment. And once I do that, I start to notice things that I can like pick up and bring home. And use within my practice or in my home. So like the leaves that are falling, there's a giant oak tree, we have acorns, like the stuff that I don't pay attention to unless I am in that moment and taking some time to actually walk outside of my house, which I work from home all the time. So sometimes I forget to do that on a daily basis. I'm like, I need to go outside.
I love hearing that. And like, I guess what's really interesting for me in this conversation is that we have very different paths and like what we're doing, but so the soul of what we're doing is similar because I am such a lover of nature and animals myself. And I just got done actually planting a bunch of native stuff because the fall is a good time for propagation and cuttings of plants. So yeah, I planted a whole bunch of native stuff, and I mindfully plant native plants because those can be more readily used by the native wildlife. Um, of course, a lot of different plants are useful for homes and habitats, but in terms of caterpillars and birds, a lot of them can only utilize native vegetation. So I love doing that. I love giving back. I love the idea that nature is using a lot of what I'm putting out there. And I think that leaves a lot of opportunity, like you said, to feed animals and connect with nature, but also, um, speaking of connecting with nature, there's a spider crawling towards me. It's a good sign.
It
They're
heard you.
yeah, they're happy. Um, so you can do lots of like little crafts that can, you know, I really like doing the whole like peanut butter on a pine cone and rolling in bird
Oh
seed
yeah.
and putting those out. That's super fun and beautiful. Um, but yeah, I love feeding birds. I love watching birds. They're
Me
just
too.
so cute. Yeah, so some of my favorites are the songbirds too, because they just have such a happy demeanor to them.
Oh
And
yeah.
I think like if you don't go out and take time to look at the animals, you wouldn't notice that actually the different types of birds have different personalities, and same with the squirrels. It's really cool.
It is. It's my favorite thing, actually. Right this direction is my window, and I have a bird feeder on it, and they're all
Oh my
like hanging out right
gosh.
now. I can like hear them chirping. Just saw a cardinal swoop in. I'm like, this is my favorite.
Yeah, that's the take-home message of this is love nature, get outside, unplug. People thought
Which
they were gonna get
would
pumpkin
like
carving tips, but really this is what we're about.
it is. And it's funny because that would not be my message if you asked me in the spring and summer, because I just don't like to be outside when it's hot. And like I would have a completely different answer for all of these questions if you were asking me in June.
Yeah, that's completely valid. That's the one thing I did not enjoy about the summer was sweating through all of my clothes because I love being outside. I would much rather be outside all the time. So I was like, I don't want to be outside and also covered in sweat. This is very unpleasant.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
yeah. All right. So to sort of wrap up the conversation, is there anything you would like to leave people with in this season? Some thoughts, nuggets of wisdom?
I always love to share nuggets of wisdom. But yeah, thoughts that I would like to leave people with if you're just trying to dip your toe in, is to start small and go out into nature, because I think that there's a lot of witch aesthetic at this time of year. Like October is great for that. And I love it. I mean, it's like a lot of fun to look at on Instagram and things, but it sort of makes you feel like you have to go out and buy stuff in order to be a part of that and to truly, appreciate fall, that you need to go to Target and buy pillows and candles and, throw blankets, like, but you really don't need to. And everything that you could need or want to celebrate is like right outside your door. So, and it's free. So if you're going out there and, making offerings, connecting with nature, then you're able to go out and collect acorns and pine cones and see the wildlife and things. And you don't actually need to go buy anything to be a part of that fall spirit.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And same with ceremonial magic, you don't have to buy anything. Yes, I same with the aesthetic photos, whether it's witchcraft, ceremonial magic, having the cool robe and the cool ritual implements is amazing and looks really neat. And it can, in some regards help you, but at the end of the day, you can just use a stick. You can just grab some acorns. Yeah, that's your challenge. This is what I'm leaving. That's your challenge. Make your ceremonial ritual implements with like just stuff in the yard. Like make your disc a leaf, carve a leaf, grab a stick, make that your wand, and see. And actually, yeah, see if that changes anything. And in fact, ultimately, you don't need any of these external implements help you do the magic, but it's all an internal process. I don't mean how the magic works, of course, but I mean in terms of you can do it on the astral plane. You can mentally do the magic in your head if you're at that skill level. But yeah, definitely worth experimenting with. And one thing I would like to leave people with is this idea of diversity and celebration of diversity. And that I just think it is so cool that this is a time of the year that a lot of people love in a lot of different ways, and making space for that, and making space for you to explore different things and try them on, and yeah, just be mindful, and thank you for joining me on this show to everyone, and thank you so much, Steph, as well. So I hope everyone has an amazing spooky season and takes away from this some fantastic ideas of how to incorporate fall into your day-to-day life and get more out of this amazing season, regardless of your background or your path. There's so much we share and so much we can learn from each other. So, as always, to my viewers, I am the center of expression for the primal will to good, and so are you. Thank you so much.